How's it going, everybody? So the Helios 300 is one of Acer Predator's more entry-level gaming laptops, although it doesn't really look or feel like it. It's the smaller brother compared to the Helios 500, 700, and even I'm gonna say the bigger but smaller brother compared to the Triton 500, which I also reviewed a while back. So I'm gonna go over all of the specs, the features, the gaming performance to let you guys know what you're going to get if you go for a Helios 300. Now, even though it is more on the lower side compared to some of the other Predator gaming laptops, it still has all of the needed horsepower, with the model I have here having a 6-core 12-thread i7-8750H, and then it does come with an RTX 2060 6GB, 16 gigs of DDR4 memory, dual 512 gig NVMe SSDs running in RAID 0. You get a 1TB 2.5 inch hard drive, and then finally a 17.3 inch Full HD IPS display running at 144 Hz. Now that is currently just this model. You do get so many other variants, so definitely check those out if you want to go for something a bit lower as well. But the model I have here is retailing for around $1,300 or around 30,000 Rand, and the Helios 300 is actually currently the best selling gaming laptop on Amazon. So that just kind of shows you guys how good this laptop actually is. But not only is the internals good, the outside is just as good as well, with the same sleek matte black design that we get on some of the other Acer Predator laptops as well, like the Triton 500, and it doesn't feel cheap at all. It feels very premium. The Helios 300 is still quite compact for what you get, with my 17-inch model only being 25mm thick and weighs in at 2.9 kilograms, which is still good for on-the-go use. Now at the back you do get the light blue Predator logo and the blue lines on the side, which might be a bit too gamery for some, especially if you do work in a more office environment, but it's actually not that distraction compared to a lot of the other laptops out there, and I actually do quite like it. However, unfortunately, the matte black finish is still a fingerprint magnet, so you might want to keep a nice cloth nearby just to wipe it off every now and then. Now getting into I/O, on the right side you do get a full-size HDMI 2.0 port, a mini DisplayPort 1.4, two USB 3.1 Gen 1 ports, both for Type A and C. On the left side, you get a Kensington lock, the power ports, an RJ45 gigabit Ethernet port, two USB 3.0 Type A ports, and then finally a combo 3.5mm jack. When lifting up the display, which you actually can do with a single finger, you are greeted with a full-size 4-zone RGB backlit keyboard with some gaming themed keycaps on some of the keys. The switches do have a nice soft and silent key press that I do feel is pretty much identical to my Triton 500s, although it does stand out a tiny bit more. However, I had no problems gaming with these switches, and then also writing this review, and even on my Triton 500, pretty much all of my recent reviews have been edited and written on that keyboard. Also, because of the good build quality, keyboard flex is almost non-existent. As for the trackpad, you do get a larger size trackpad that is actually quite good, with a smooth surface and precise cursor movement. It is definitely above most of the other trackpads that I've used on laptops. However, I did find that this model here did have a bit too much travel for the left and the right clicks at the bottom. It isn't really that big of a deal, but I do prefer a stiffer trackpad that actuates when you actually press down on the buttons. As for the display, you get two options here, either a 15.6 inch or a 17.3 inch model, and I have to say the extra 2 inches does make quite a difference. Both of the displays do have a Full HD IPS panel that runs at 144 Hz with a very nice low 3-millisecond response time, perfect for gaming. The bezels are also relatively thin with little flex to the screen. Now, to my knowledge, Acer went with the same panel that they use on my Triton 500, which is more common on the mid-tier gaming laptops. The display is definitely great for gaming, but the color accuracy, contrast, and peak brightness are only above average. So any high production color grading work, you would most likely want to do that on an external display. But honestly, for just YouTube videos or gaming, it's also going to be completely fine. I've even just edited all of my recent videos on my Triton 500 and the colors all look to be pretty decent to me. Then taking a quick listen to the speakers, you do get two 2-watt front bottom firing speakers that was actually quite loud and crisp. Now, unfortunately, there's no sub, so bass was a bit lacking, but I would definitely use this if I was just listening to music or even some gaming, because the stereo is actually quite good as well. But now, just before we get into gaming benchmarks, because of the bit larger size, cooling performance, it does definitely benefit from that compared to something like my Triton 500, which is more of a thin and a light, and it does get quite toasty. So for the Helios 300, it does use dual fans that does get quite loud at 60 decibels on a full load, but quite fast as well, with the CPU fan maxing out at 5,700 RPM and 6,000 RPM for the GPU. However, on idle, it is nice and quiet at 46 decibels at 2,600 RPM and 2,900 RPM. On idle, the CPU hovered around 51 degrees at 4 GHz and the GPU at 44 degrees. When running a CPU-only Blender workload, the CPU did jump up into the 90 degrees, where it did start to drop clock speeds to around 3 GHz and then steadily go down to in the mid-80s as well. Then for the GPU only firmware stress test, the GPU actually only reached a max of 66 degrees, but the idle CPU jumped into around the 86 degrees at 3.9 GHz because of the shared cooling. But now when you're jumping into a match of Battlefield 5, the CPU hovered around the 80s to 90s and the clock speeds at 3.9 GHz, which is a bit hot, and this is where we see the bit more limitation on the mobile CPUs, whereas the GPU stayed at only 67 degrees but at 100% usage for the RTX 2060. Now then, jumping into the benchmarks, I am happy to say that the Helios 300 with its i7 8750H and the RTX 2060 does do really well, with me being able to play every single game above 60 FPS at max settings. For some of the games, you might be able to play around with the settings to get that 144 Hz, but for most competitive games like CSGO, it won't be a problem. As for ray tracing, it is definitely a nice to have, but even on a desktop RTX 2060, the hit on performance in most games is still just too much for me to recommend it, and the DLSS is honestly just a waste of time currently. But now, as for the other more CPU related benchmarks, we can see how the larger cooling solution does help here, with the Helios 300 beating out my Triton 500 with its 9th generation 9750H. So if you are planning to do any editing or any rendering work on that, you know you're gonna get a pretty good performance out of that. Same goes for the SSDs with that RAID 0 512 gig NVMe ones. They do perform really well. Then as for upgradability, I am happy to say that the Helios 300 is much simpler to upgrade compared to the Triton 500. All you need to do is remove the back panel, where you do get access to your 2 SODIMM slots, your 2.5-inch hard drive for SSD, and then your 2 NVMe M.2 slots. Then finally, for the battery, you do have a quite large 180 watt power adapter and a 54 watt hour lithium ion battery that will last around 4 hours of casual media consumption on power saving mode and around 1 hour and 15 minutes when gaming. So just enough time to watch some movies or play some games if you are waiting for load shedding to end. Load shedding, nice. So then in conclusion, I am happy to say that the Helios 300 is a really good gaming laptop for the price point. It is very competitive compared to some of the others on the market. And again, like I said, it is currently the best selling gaming laptop on Amazon US. I am glad that you do have other models as well. You don't have to go for the exact one I have here. Again, with the 8750H and the RTX 2060, they do have a lower GPUs and also lower CPUs. And I do like that you do have the options of a different sizes. That 15.6 inch will be a bit cheaper, but I honestly do like the 17.3 inch so much. Now, just that extra bit of real estate does actually add quite a bit. But anyway, that's pretty much it for my review. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. A big thanks to Acer South Africa for sending the Helios 300 over for review, and also my Triton 500. So if you guys want to get them for yourself, I will leave links in the video description. And if you guys enjoyed this review, please like, share, comment like always, and I will check all of you next time. Cheers, guys.